you are going to need a tennis ball for tonight's practice and a foam roller. Myofascial release is one of my passions, particularly at the moment if you can't go and get a massage. Looking after our body and rehydrating our tissues by applying compression is incredibly important. Whenever we exercise our muscles, because the muscle can only contract, we create those long lines and that strength, and that's fantastic, but we also need to sometimes re-soften it so we can overstrain the muscles and to really help move the fluid into the belly of the muscles. When you think about a stretch, if you're contracting a muscle, you're really bringing most of the stretch into the 2 points, the origin and insertion point, because we're stretching those bones apart. So we tend to not be able to hit right in the middle of the calf when we stretch the calf, and because we've got lots of different muscles that cross over, these practices offer something that we can't always get just by coming into stretching. It's why we do Pilates and we do Yin Yoga, and why we do a dynamic Yang practice. All of these bits move together to be a holistic self-care practice. Having said all of that and convincing you that it's a great idea to come onto that foam roller, which sometimes can be a little bit of an adventure, let's come down onto our backs. Foam rolling is one of those things that doesn't always necessarily feel like it's going to be a treat for your body. Particularly when we hit the calves, people usually make lots of faces. That's okay. It's why deep stretch is moving to be a premium class, because when we share the experience together, sharing pain actually makes it easier to bear. All right, can you see me? I'm going to scooch up a little bit. There we go. So you can see most of my body. I'll just take a few little moments when I come onto the roller just to rock and roll and get that sacrum moving. Rocking and rolling, rocking and rolling. So we're just going to begin by working on the back here. Being in this position on a foam roller is one of my favorite things to do, because it allows the body to just begin to open up that chest. And then if you've got some blocks, and one of the things I've been working on at home practice is just to bring the spine into a little bit better alignment, because we do have the head a little bit further out than I would usually like, is instead of having the head on the roller, we'll need it sometimes on the roller, but if you're just lying on the roller, bringing the head onto something else, and then, look at all of that openness in the chest. And I can scooch my pillow up to have my head so I've got my ears and my shoulders aligned, and that's going to be even better for my body. So I can just start here. So when I'm not rocking or rolling and I don't need the neck supported by the roller, I can use something else to bring the neck into the best position for my spinal alignment. You could just hang out here for the next 45 minutes and feel justified. Maybe you're still taking those rocking and rolling motions down through the low back just to free up the sacrum. And you can feel, if you've got that roller right in the center and there's a little bit of pressure around my tailbone, it can feel nice to help us right the spine into that long line. And then we'll inhale the hands all the way up high to the sky. Press down through the feet. I've adopted a little Pilates imprint. So think about drawing your ribs and your hips together. Yeah, beautiful. And from here, we'll begin to move the arms like scissors. So moving forward and back. I want you to be aware of what's happening in your shoulders here. So if you've got tension in your shoulders, you're working with an old shoulder injury, don't make these too big. You don't want to re-injure the body in any way. As we just slide and glide that connective tissue, which is much bigger than the lines of our muscles. Our connective tissue, it's like a tablecloth is a good way to explain it. And if you crunch up one end of the tablecloth, you get wrinkles the whole way through. It's like that with our connective tissue, which is different to a muscle, which moves from those two fixed points. So these kind of movements can really be good for the whole of the connective tissue. It's sliding and gliding that posterior chain. We're working with this superficial back line of connective tissue here. All right. Our muscles are about 30% fascia anyway. Beautiful. Hands come all the way up. Or sorry, about 30% of muscle stiffness comes from fascia is a more correct way to say that. Let's begin to reach the hands back together. Now notice your ribs, they're going to want to pop open. I want you to keep them gently drawing in. Slide the hands all the way around. Let the exhale lift them up. Inhale to reach them over the head. Exhale, move them around. If you're working with restrictions in the shoulders, just do this with your elbows and bring your fingertips to touch the top of your shoulder heads. And that's going to be less stressful, but you'll still feel that movement around, that sliding and gliding of the tissues of your back, coming into that compression, static compression through the roller, and we move the body. You can take a few in the other direction. So the hands come out and around now, little snow angels. Those always feel good. I've been sitting all day at a desk. I've been doing the dishes folded over the kitchen sink. This is really nice for the body. Just to have that alignment of the spine and that openness in the chest. Alright, last one. All the way out. Bring the hands up. Grab a hold of opposite elbows. And then from here we're going to roll, move the right elbow out to the right and try and straighten up the left arm. Use the obliques to bring the arms back to center and move your elbows over towards the left and try and straighten up your right arm. So here, the core engagement's really good for keeping you static and stable on the roller. So you're working through your core. Another favorite thing about myofascial release for me is that you're working your abdominals here, you're working the obliques, even as you release and peel tension out of the body. You might want to drink a fair bit of water around your practice too. It's fine, it makes me very, very thirsty. Side and side. Beautiful. Come all the way back to center. Bring the hands down. And now you might want to scooch, scooch, scooch. We're going to release out the neck. So what we want to do is use the lip of the roller right in those little bony bits that are at the bottom of the hairline. I'm going to scooch down just so I can get the lip of the roller and tuck it right under there. This is a good time to come into that imprint. So you might want to bring the hands back down to the floor. That'll help you feel more balanced. You can hold on to the roller if you need the stability. But to do that, you're really going to have to engage through the abdominals. And then we're going to take the nose over to one side. Keep a little lift of the chin and it'll help you scoop that roller underneath those bones, those little occiput bones. And then we'll go side to side, side to side. And this feels really good. Now be careful, your cervical spine is a fragile beast. I'm doing this in a way that's not over compressing into those bones of the neck, but it's working with the ligaments that help hold the head onto that stalk of a neck, and they get tight. You ever feel sometimes like your head literally isn't sitting on straight? It's a thing. And it's often because we've got one side of the neck that's tensioned up. All right, next time we're going to come over to the right. Keep that little lift of the chin and then circle your nose around. Circle and circle. Feels good, right? And the more you kind of get right on the spot, you might want to take little circles and you might want to take big circles. But it's very often that I have little tight spots under there. Keep working the breath. Big deep breaths in. Pause, nod your head yes, shake your head no, yes, no. One more, yes, and no. and then come all the way back to center and go over to the other side. And take the nose around in slow circles. And I always notice about this point that I'm getting lazy through the lower abdominals. So come back to re-engaging that imprint. Maybe a little left to about 30% of the pelvic floor here as well, just so you feel really connected and aware of what's happening in the back. And that'll help you feel balanced on the roller and a little bit safer as your head comes around, because you think the head's kind of floating a bit in space there. So feeling the rest of the body firmly connected to a surface, and just make the body feel a little bit more confident in exploring those circles and those motions where we're being a little bit more fluid. Little nod of the head and shake of your head. So the parts that were planted, that's our stability. And then we feel freer to move the parts that need that little bit of release. And you want to pause if there's a trigger spot and just lift that chin up to scoop the roller underneath and get that nice little moment of pressure and release. Take a few deep breaths and come all the way back to center. Take it nice and slow, roll through the chin. Think of a Pilates roll up, so the ribs rolling down and in. Use the hand as we gently come all the way up, 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 up. And just flip yourself around, release that for the glutes for a moment. So I'm coming up onto the roller, hands can come behind, flipping and bringing my foot to what's called a pigeon pose. Maybe I'll just take it that way for a moment so you can see that shape. Flexing into my right foot, I've got it on my left knee. I just want to leave the back alone for a little bit. Take the hands behind. You can take a little rock and roll. What we're going to do is take the weight over onto the right glute and point the right knee down to the floor. That's going to help you get a little bit deeper. And you want to massage as much of that glute in as you can. So if you think about the knee coming down, it moves you towards that outer edge. You can press up. Roll back to center. Roll a little bit up towards the sacrum. You'd be surprised how far some of those muscles, and we've got bridging muscles that go from lumbar spine all the way to inner thigh. So these big movements can just hit a whole lot of those longer muscle chains. Feels good, right? All the way over and side to side. Side to side and side to side. All right, swap it over. This stuff becomes addictive. You become like me and you can't sit still when you watch TV. You're pulling out your roller. Move over onto that right side. As more that you can integrate these things into your everyday life, the more easier they are to maintain. So we only have limited hours in the day. But why not while you're just sitting around and having that after work conversation, or while you're watching the nightly news, or maybe you're like me and avoiding the news at the moment because it's not always the most encouraging thing for my brain. Doing these little restorative practices can help keep your body in tip-top shape. Foam rolling is a really good way to warm up your body before you exercise. Really good way to prepare the body to stretch too. But if you're like me and you just went for a walk on the beach, it's a really lovely way to release the muscles afterwards as well. All right, I might want to take that knee down, spend a little moment here. And any tight spots, give them a few extra moments. Just let the tension dissipate. You can add a little rock side to side. It's always great. I love seeing that expression that comes onto people's faces when we do this at the studio as they go on that little inner journey and they're like, oh, I didn't even know. Yes. It's quite a discovery whenever you get on a foam roller. Usually lots of things that you weren't even aware were there. All right. One of my new favorite moves. So we'll come all the way down to the floor like we're setting up for a bridge pose. And we're just going to scooch the roller underneath the booty. And this does look strange, and I'm surprised that I feel confident enough to do this, but I trust you yogis. Do these little weird hip circles, kind of look a bit like you're gyrating around to, like a Barry White song. It's not like that though, guys. What we're doing is just circling out the hips. Circle, circle, circle. Maybe you're thinking of down, left, up, right, down, left, up, right. Or maybe it's like belly dancing. You do these circular motions. It's getting everything decompressed down around the low spine. Go the other way. And you talk about in yin yoga when we come to Sphinx pose. It's such a common place for tension, but also a place where we can develop osteoporosis, the most common site. So these little gentle stresses that just help keep the body functioning. So we do compression work with our yoga when we come into Sphinx pose for the osteoblasts, which are in our bones, and when we do foam rolling, and also in yoga, our fibroblasts, which are in our fascial tissue. These amazing little self-repairing functions in our body. Once we've done a few of those, just draw the knees in, and I'm going to go for a bicycle. So this is again fantastic for the abdominals. Take big long sweeps of the feet. Keep that little imprint. Navel like you're pulling on a diagonal to the floor. That feels nice. So if you're looking for a way to exercise, why not jump on your foam roller and go for a ride? And go on a little bit more. Cardio. Go the other way. What do you do for exercise, Katie? I do Pilates. What do you do for cardio? I do Pilates faster. Beautiful. Alright, let's take a little stretch. Plant that foot down, gather the right knee into the chest. Little wind relieving pose, one of my favorites. It just feels so good. And the elevation of the hips just helps they angle, particularly if you take that left leg out. This is a beautiful stretch to do on your bed, so as you get that left leg hanging down off the side. In fact, if we use the foam roller, we could replicate that. So have the right knee up and left leg down. Oh, that's a much deeper release out. Wow, can feel that one. If that's too much, just be balanced in the middle of your roller. You could hear in my voice, there's that little bit of tremor that comes from putting some strain on that connective tissue. Woof. Bring it down, swing it over to the other side. Never thought to do that with a foam roller. All these little fun play things you can do. So have your left leg on the roller. As long as you don't feel like you're going to fall off, bring your other way. Right leg off the roller. So you've just got that right bottom cheek hanging off. Bring the left leg in. That's the way. Pull it down and you'll feel that big release really hitting into the top of the thigh, as well as the release out for the deeper hip flexor on the left hand side. I'm a big fan of multiple benefits stretching. You're just going to breathe and hang out here. It's a really good one for those muscles that run either side of the spine and that come down, attach into the lesser trochanter of the femur, because they cross over so many other ligaments. Some of these big muscles. Alright, plant the foot down, swing the foam roller back, and we're just going to take the legs up and take them out nice and wide. Alright, from here, bring your toes towards your face and your left leg out, and then swap it over. Now you don't have to do this like you're a cheerleader. You can do this much smaller. If you're working on your flexibility though, you can get the benefit of doing this with big, wide legs. Now, I don't know how this is going to go. I have to take off the microphone. This is a little one that I made up. I call this one the helicopter. So next time I come over towards the right foot towards the face, I'm going to roll over onto the left just to hit into that TFL. I'm going to bring the right foot down to the floor. That might be too intense for you, so you don't have to do that. And then we roll all the way over and we touch the left toe. So I'm getting a little spinal twist here, but I'm also hitting onto that TFL region. All the way over and back, all the way over, hold and back, one more time, all the way over. You might want to hang out here for a moment, lift yourself up, bring that right foot into support. Hello, how you doing everybody? Readjust your clothing, and then to really hit it, you're going to roll down. So you're going to move and kind of direct pressure into that space near those deep, deep hip creases. And you can even add a little rocks forward and back. But again, that might not be for you. That is not for everybody. You can just stay with those big helicopter legs if you want to. Yeah. And then we'll do the other side. So bring yourself down, open up the legs, whee, over to the other side, and then come on up. I'm going to bend that top leg. Maybe I want to spend a moment with it straight in that little spinal twist. But I really need to bring some pressure down. And then I can add a little forward and back rock, or I can just hold here. Think of ironing it out. So you think about an iron, gets the wrinkles out of your clothes, and those little forward and back, just ironing out those restrictions, those adhesions, and the distortions in your connective tissue. Yep. Oh, there's a good spot. I'll do that for 3 and 2 and 1. And then we'll swing it all the way back over. Okie dokie. Let's come on to our forearms just to do a little bit of prone. We've done a lot of supine, so we'll do some prone work. I'll just flick that little support on. So I won't do deep into the hip flexors because we kind of hit them a little bit with that TFL stretch. Maybe grab yourself a little drink here. Or a big drink. Hydration is important, everybody. And then we'll grab the roller and we're going to bring it in and we're going to hit the body in 3 parts. Hold on, I've disappeared off the screen. So what's really important here is not to get lazy through the core. You didn't know you were going to get a core workout here, did you? We might start up high. And now I'm going to move again. So the first third of those quads, I'm just going to rock forward and back here. Now if you turn your toes out, that'll move you into that medial part of those chunky thighs. And if you move your toes in, it'll move you more laterally. And then out. And then in. And then out. And then in. Beautiful. Now, sometimes, and I'm just going to do this with 2 legs today, I think just take a little kick. What that's doing, if you think about muscles contracting, is it's sliding and gliding those muscles over the static compression. And that's also a different form of release. All right, let's come down to mid-thigh. We can do this one-legged, but we won't do that today. And we're going to come to mid-thigh, and then we're going to engage the core. Think of a forearm plank here. And just forward and back rock. So if you're feeling any tension in the back, just make sure you're not letting those hips get slumpy, think of a Pilates imprint again. So gather your ribs and your hips towards the midline of the body, just so you're keeping a gentle bracing in the abdominals. Turn the toes out and your hip towards that medial area. And then if you take the legs a little bit wider, oh, there we go. We'll get a lot more of the inner thigh and less of the quad. And then turn your tips of your toes in, and you'll move more towards the outer region of the thigh. And just a few little forward and back. And again, you might want to take a little kick here. You might not want to take a little kick here. And that's a valid thing that you can do as well, is not do this. Breathe. Notice if you're tensing in the back of the neck. Brace into the core again. Maybe say some choice words, and then let's come down to the space just above the knee. Now this is the juicy bit. So we tend to have the most problematic areas right near the joints, because remember that's where we're loading most of the strain when we take a stretch. That's why this is such a nourishing practice for your body. Foam rolling is that we can begin to iron out anywhere that we've really overstrained. You can overstretch. It's a thing. Turn the toes out. And when you're super duper tight, sometimes the last thing you want to do is stretch, because you're just creating more strain. You're just doing more contraction on a muscle that's already really tight. So foam rolling, if you're super tight, before you stretch, can release some of that pressure out. In and out, breaking it down to thirds. Now we're going to do something called a flush. We're going to go all the way up and down. So toes in and then toes out. And this helps the lymphatic drainage and the circulation. So we're treating a much bigger area of that connective tissue in this part. Oh, yep. At the end, you're going to think, my thighs feel so good, but my hamstrings now feel lonely. That's okay. Let's release out the hamstrings, and then we'll go all the way down for the calves. Calves are always beautiful and juicy. And we're going to use the ball. Maybe you're going to use the ball. I'm going to show you some variations. There are lots of things you can do. Come all the way down. So we're going to bring the hamstrings onto the ball, onto the roller, by starting up nice and high. And then, like you're conducting an orchestra, little figure 8 shapes in the air. So this is a big, broad, not an isolated one for the hamstrings. But I find that this is so relaxing and so freeing. And because it's like sometimes we find that strain spreading outwards on the back of the legs. And it's a really common area for cellulite too. And cellulite's just tight connective tissue. So if you've got cellulite, foam roll. Yeah, that's why it's so calming. But you're hearing a really broad stance. It's far less targeted. If you've got a specific hamstring injury, you might need something a little bit more specific. Come down, and we'll take the mid region of the back of the leg, and the same thing. And notice is one side tighter than the other? I'm going to pause on this one and do what we should have done up at the above one. So you're just going to drop one leg and just let that be a really heavy weight. And as you move your other leg, so I've got my right leg drawing those slow circles, you can go as slow or as fast as you like. So as you slow sweep, you can really control more what's happening, and you get a slower, deeper compression. So think of a massage when they do those big, long presses in. If you move faster, it's more like those light. And they have different purposes in massage, those different kinds of strokes. But yeah, you want to think about moving the muscle around the bone. I like to think of it as all being fluid and just sloshing it around that bone. Bring it down the other side. Because then you're working with the fluid nature of the intercellular matrix. That's what, it's like the goo that's going on underneath it's where your blood vessels float around in that kind of gooey stuff. Alright, stop. Go down and do 2 legs at once. So as you come down near the knees and up the top near the hips, it's where you're going to find the most kind of tightness. I'll put one foot down and I'll just move one leg, let the other leg be a weight. Keep the breath moving in and out. Can you feel that freeing? That release that's happening as the back of the thighs relax. Go the other way. It's a really good way to just do a little bit of exfoliation. Side to side. Foam rolling is one of those things that after you've done it, you're like, oh, I'm going to do that all the time. Beautiful. And pause. Oh, how good do the legs feel? Except now, you're probably really aware of your calves, and they are a golden spot. I always love it when you palpate someone's calves and they're like, oh my goodness gracious me, I did not even know. So we're going to start with those long sweeps. So just what's called a flush. Have your toes up to the sky, turn your toes out and you'll hit towards the outer edge of your leg. You might need to keep repositioning. Turn your toes up and press the roller away. And you'll also feel that this just begins to release out the hips. Now you can do this with floating the feet up and over. Just separate them out so you're hitting that back line of the legs, toes out. This isn't going to hit the whole of the calves. We're going to do a couple of different things with the calves today because they're such a tight area. This is just going to loosen and free up your hips and get that blood flow. Now, one of my favorite things to do is release out down to that Achilles tendon. So bringing the left foot on, and I'm going to bring the right leg on top. It's just going to give me more compressive force. I'm going to let my hips swing here, and I'm going to move my foot side to side like a little pendulum. Now you can do this seated upright, but I actually like to lie down because I find that too long doing it seated upright can mean that I can create a little bit of tension in that low back. So just doing this while I'm lying down feels like the whole of the spine is supported, and I can get the swivel of the hips without any tightness in the back, and you can just engage the core. Alright, do some slow circles for your ankles. This is really good for strengthening your ankles. It's one of those everyday things that you would benefit from bringing to regular maintenance. Yep, all the way around, and then maybe some find those really tight spots. So for me, it's right near the outer edge. You think about we evert and invert the foot, and we kind of roll the weight and just kind of press in and create tension, and then in. So yeah, your fascia will tighten like a little armor when there's strain. That can be physical strain, chemical strain, or emotional strain. All the way back to center, and should feel like, oh, my foot moves so much better now. Other side, pendulum side to side. So yeah, if you're resting your weight and kind of rolling out on your feet through the day, then the thing that's going to help you stay from just like falling over to the side is your connective tissue. It will grow really tense. It'll become resilient, but it also gets bound up, and that restricts our blood flow, which affects our circulation and our lymphatic drainage. So here, what we're doing is effectively just loosening it back up again. side to side. Notice where the tight spots are. You might even feel this in your foot or in your calf. All right, let's go for those circles, nice and slow. I'm really trying to isolate that on that Achilles tendon. And tight through there can also cause a tension right up. You think about the front of the shin. A lot of people have tension up there. Go the other way. Slow and calming, these kind of rhythmic motions, very relaxing for the body. As you feel the tension literally being drained away from your body, feel the face lighten and the breath lengthen. And then find the little spots and maybe give them a little roll out. So again, it's like the iron on that stubborn wrinkle, or like a hairbrush on a knot, and you're just like, gonna get it out. Side to side, and then come back in, do the inside bit. Because they're the two bits that you'll probably find there's most likely to be densely bound connective tissue. Now, are you ready to move up? Let's stay with the right leg because it's already on the roller. We're coming to about where that soleus is, so we'll come up a little bit and we'll just add a little forward and back motion. So toe comes out to move to the outside, toe comes in to move to the inside. And just get a nice hunk of that tissue rolling around on the roller. Nice hunk of the tissue. This is one of those things I'm like, oh no, we're going to run out of time. So we have lots of roll and relax classes because there's so many different parts of the body that you can bring this very versatile tool of the foam roller to. And then just a little forward and back pendulum swing. I think about the muscle fibers getting bound up. We're just creating that spaciousness again. You'll feel like your skin is looser. It's actually the subcutaneous layer of connective tissue. Not your skin, but hey, it just feels like your body fits you. All right. Let's do the other side. So coming above that Achilles heel, up a little bit, and we begin with forward and back motions. Forward and back, toes out, hits the outer edge, and toes in and out and in and out and in. All right, now circles. I find particularly when I'm super tight, it's hard to stay on the muscle because it's like it's so rigidly bound that I'm just rolling off. That's okay. Maybe hold for a few minutes. Think of compression being like a vacuum. So if you think about poking something soft, where you're like a pillow, you think about how that kind of, we're doing the same thing with the roller. Your finger sinks in, except in that little divot that you've created in your body, that's where we can move the blood. So even just holding on it is like that, poking the pillow to make that space. If you've done those ankle rolls, you might want to do some pendulums. Beautiful. And then we'll move up and we'll come to about the top of the, we'll move more towards the top of the calf because that's where we tend to get the other tight spot. We'll stay on the left side. You might want to add, now I always find it hard to get the flushes up the top, so I'm just going to go straight to the pendulum and the ankle rolls, just while keeping the core engaged. That's the one that you do when you're sitting up. So if you want to do flushes here, this is where we bring the hands out and we do come up, because it's really difficult to do that down on the floor. Circle, circle, circle. Another way. Circle, circle. Fantastic. Maybe a little forward and back. So you think about, again, I'm just going to move down, my head's more in the screen. You think about a masseuse getting their finger, it's like you're worrying the knot, you're just getting on that spot and just moving it out, smoothing it out. Other side. So bring it up to kind of the top of you're not on the knee, but towards the top of the calf, near where the knee is, just below it, and just come straight to those pendulums. If you want to come up and do the flushes, again, hands out to the side, with the fingers out, it's a little bit less strain, a little bit less on the wrists. But yeah, this is one of those ones that if you do a long period up on the wrists, you can really kind of bring some strain into the upper body, and that's not what we're here to do. We're actually here to let go of tension. Let's come all the way down. And just pendulum and circle and circle and circle. And then we'll go the other way. And then some little forward and back, guys. Side. In. And then maybe a few big flushes. Just out and in. Out and in. Now I promise we'd use the ball. The ball is always great, and I do recommend, in a moment I'm going to jump up and just roll it underneath my feet, but we won't take that for the practice because we're at time. I want to show you the quick little release out for your calf. So what you can do is take the ball, and I'm going to use the hamstring and the calf and kind of mush them together, or use the leg, or the thigh and the leg, and just do a little forward and back floss, and you can move it around. But it usually feels really good because you can use the flesh to hold the ball in place, and then just rotate or just manipulate that ankle into a little dance. Oh, yep. But my favorite one, take the hands out to the side, have the feet out, and then press your your hips toward your heel. And then you can kind of come in. So just swing your hips so you're taking your hips towards the outside of your heel, and then to the other outside of the heel. And that is like a masseuse getting their elbows in there. Woo! That's a doozy. It's one of my favorites. Really tight calves because it's getting in deep. Not everyone loves this one. All right, come to the other side. So we haven't done glutes, and we haven't done feet, and we haven't done arms, we haven't done side body, but that's okay because we've got lots of these roll and release classes. Oh, sorry. So we start with just taking it in and just do that little one. This one's the easier version. So it's much less intense because there's much less compression. Yeah. And then bring it in and to side and side. Oh, yeah. Who didn't know their calves were tight? Woo-hoo-hoo. And this is where I'm going to leave you, and you're going to promise me that you're going to go and do your feet now. And you can do that while you're having a chat. It's a bit hard to cook dinner. I wouldn't advise doing this where you've got a knife in your hand. Just while you're watching the TV or standing around, getting the ball and going underneath the feet is really good to release out those tight feet, which often get that tension, that plantar fascia if you've been standing on your feet all day, or if you walk around a lot on hard floors. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me tonight. I will see you very, very soon.